If you haven't seen my previous video on Red vs. Blue, I highly recommend watching that first, as I give some brief overviews on the series as a whole in that video. This video will be entirely focused on my thoughts on RVB Season 6 through 10, also known as the Freelancer era. The biggest change between Season 5 and the seasons that followed was plot. Technically, the first seasons had plot as well, but those story beats only existed to service the jokes. Seasons 6 through 10 flipped the script, focusing on the story beats themselves and only implementing jokes seemingly as an afterthought. There's nothing inherently wrong with this approach, but it does sap away at a bit of the heart and soul of the series, but that doesn't really settle in until much later. Season 6 is hands down my favorite season of RVB, and my favorite anything Rooster Teeth has ever done, while it might be one of my favorite things of any medium. This is the one and only season where the plot, characters, and comedy all fell into an effortless blend that kept me thoroughly engaged with the characters while also making me piss my pants with laughter. It achieves this through two creative decisions. The first is having the usual cast split at the beginning. This allows the season to stand on its own as a soft reboot, building on what had come before while carving out an identity all its own. The second is the introduction of Agent Washington, played by Shannon McCormick. He serves as a straight man for all the comedy. Other characters like Church, Tex, and even Griff have had their turns as the straight man, but Wash is much more consistent, and in these early seasons at least, he's far from boring. His motivation is a bit of a mess throughout the series, and by season 10 he's kinda just another Church, but his backstory is far and away the most engaging in the series. And the story is surprisingly tight, recontextualizing previous seasons while providing an excellent framework for things to come. Season 6 is a 10 out of 10. Season 7 continued that, but didn't really build off of it. The jokes weren't as funny, the story wasn't as tight, Wash was gone throughout most of it, and it felt more like the series was trying to ease the full cast back in, rather than being a logical continuation. Season 7 is a 6 out of 10. Season 8 tied up those loose ends, but in doing so, it brought in some problems. This was the first season to have action scenes by Monty Oum, who would later on create RWBY. The action scenes in Red vs. Blue lack the pizzazz and creativity of RWBY, but have a much greater sense of weight behind all the movements, so I'll call it a lateral move. More damning are the supposed revelations. See, this whole trilogy was built around exposing the secrets of Project Freelancer, but after Season 6, the revelations just kinda stopped. Tucker already discovered that the Red vs. Blue war was all a sham back in Season 2, we already discovered Epsilon was the memory unit of the original Church, and that Church was an AI based off the director back in Season 6. Season 7 and 8 don't really add much other than finishing off the meta and giving Church basically a damn near identical send-off that he had in Season 6, with similar results. Season 8 is a 7 out of 10. Seasons 9 and 10 have a similar problem. Once again, they're focused on the history of Project Freelancer, and once again, none of the new revelations validate its existence. What is a revelation is Jen Brown as Carolina. She's the emotional core of these sequences, and her interplay with the director, Wash, York, and especially Tex is some sensational storytelling that is done in a surprisingly subtle way. But this is just the A plot. The B plot is where these seasons kinda fall apart. Season 9 is just some weird rehashes of Blood Gulch with a few twists as Church tries chasing the memory of Tex. The season ends with him finding closure, only to be fished out of the memory unit by Carolina, who wants to kill the director. And Season 10 is the most overrated season in the entire show. The A plot stuff is not as well done as the flashbacks from Season 9, and the B plot is just a nothing burger. Carolina leads the Reds and Blues through all the locations from the previous 9 seasons where they just reminisce over how far they've come, and only one of these scenes matters in the slightest. It builds up to this massive battle between all the characters and an army of tech bots, but none of that really lands. What also doesn't land is how quickly Carolina switches gears. The whole time she's out to kill the director, and then nothing. Yes, I get it, she took pity on him, but this tender moment seemingly came out of nowhere. It's only for the audience benefit, not for the characters, and I think this would have landed better had the present day stuff mattered a bit more. Season 9 is a 7 out of 10, and Season 10 is a 6 out of 10, so I'm giving the era as a whole a 7 out of 10. Not as entertaining as Blood Gulch, but it certainly kept things interesting and gave the series a dramatic, heartfelt, and definitive conclusion, until they continued to milk the franchise and fucked everything up. I'm Mediaocrity 4. Join me next time when I talk about what has become of this once great series.